Welcome to another episode of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification course. You can be seated if you're standing. Thank you for coming. Those of you online also that are out there, thank you for being here. And we hope this is going to be suitable for you. Okay. We're going to start out tonight in the acceptance unit. And we will be, let me take care of that real quick. We will be on LP 1E, I believe. Lesson Plan 1, page E. Now, we're just getting started in the acceptance unit here, and so we're going to be comparing, or we're going to be reviewing the previous character unit. And so if you've got your character unit with you too, that would be great. We'll be going back and forth just a little bit. Come on in and have a seat. Great to see everybody. All right, so Catan left off here. He had covered previously the note to the teacher and the introduction to the unit. So we're starting out here at the lesson plan, accepting me, accepting you. And the purpose and objective: the students will learn what it means to accept themselves and others, and the importance of accepting the positive moral characteristics in themselves and others. And so we'll look at procedure number 1. We start out by reviewing the previous unit on character by asking the following questions. Of course, if you have a classroom situation where you have a lot of interaction, a small class, you can have that interaction with the students. But what is meant by the term character? And in the teacher's manual, you have a prompt there. It says an individual's pattern of behavior and moral strength. So the term character, an individual's pattern of behavior and moral strength. So just hearing that, you might think, well, what does that mean exactly? Let's take a look back to our character unit. Let's go to page 3 if you've got your character unit there. Page 3 in the character unit is more than meets the eye. And we're actually talking about character here and what it is. I'm going to go ahead and we'll go through that whole page. Have you ever heard someone say, oh, him, yeah, he's a real character? Well, what do you think that means? In fact, what does it mean to have character in itself? Now, interestingly enough, we've asked this before even of teachers in schools, and I'm not trying to belittle them in any manner, but most people do not know what character is, really. We've asked teachers in schools, and not just in schools, but we've asked people, and we've actually gotten the answer that, oh, it's like, a cartoon character. What is character? Oh, it's a character, or they said, well, it's a symbol like you write with, a character, like a letter or something, And so that's as deep as it goes. It's not really pushed or studied in our school systems, which is really pretty bad. We've seen a little progress over the last few years, but so in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, you'll learn exactly what character is and why it's so important that each person strives to develop a positive character. You're not just born with it, Everyone has character. Character is what helps each and every person to determine what's right and wrong. So when you're about to do something or you see something taking place, you will have the ability to determine, is this right, what I see taking place in front of me? Is this wrong? You'll have that ability if you learn positive moral character. A person's character consists of patterns of behavior. Patterns of behavior. So we're talking about something that is done over and over again, a pattern, habit, if you will, that are considered either positive or negative. Your character reflects who you are on the inside, and it goes beyond what the casual eye can see. If habits are hard to break, and they really are, and that's why we learn in the Peaceful Solution. We go through all these different units in learning every aspect of positive moral character, so we can be sure that our habits are proper. If we borrow something and we return it back to, or if we return it late to the individual that we borrowed it from, or we return it broken or dirty or something, then that's a habit that we've grown with. It's something that needs to change. On the other hand, if we're the person that borrows something from somebody and we return it in better shape than what it was, it's nice and clean, it works properly. If we broke something, we let the owner know about it, then that's a habit. That is that pattern of behavior that's grown within us. That's just a small example there. So knowing about your character will enable you to understand why you think and act the way you do. Knowing how to identify a positive character in others will help you build strong positive relationships. You can choose your friends wisely. Sometimes a person's character can be mistaken for their personality. Although they can be confused, character and personality are two very different concepts. We need both character and personality to interact and function within our society. So even when interviewing people and talking with them about character, and they know a little bit about what it is, that line between character and personality is really mixed, that people don't know how to separate it, it seems. They don't know the difference between character or personality. And there is quite a difference. Let's turn to page 25 in our character unit. Page 25. We're talking about that character versus personality. So it's important to distinguish between an appealing personality and a positive character. And keep in mind that personality is what we notice right away when we meet someone. Now that's kind of an easy definition. There's a book definition, and there's more of what you might say in conversation. I've heard a lot of people say that, well, personality is what's on the outside. That's just touching the surface, really. It is on the outside. And then character is what's on the inside, Now that's very short definition. Let's try to look a little deeper at that, though. It says, keep in mind that personality is what we notice right away when we meet someone. It's how we present ourselves to others. In fact, if we meet someone who appeals to us after only one conversation, we think to ourselves, oh, they really seem like a nice person, Man, they're really great. I'd like to get to know them. Character, on the other hand, notice that middle paragraph right there if you have your book, page 25 in the character unit. Look at the drawing right there. It's a fine line, and it shows the walking the tight line, with the tightrope with a balance rod there, and personality and character, it is a fine line. So character, on the other hand, is what helps you determine what is right and wrong. What's right and wrong, not what appeals to you and doesn't, like someone laughs a lot or likes the same music you do or what have you. Character defines the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others. It dictates your moral and ethical beliefs. Now, so we're getting into things that as we go along, unless you've got a photographic memory, you're probably not going to remember all of these things exactly how they're written right off the bat. So we're going to try to do some things that help instill this within you to understand. Character defines the way you treat yourself and the way you treat others, okay? So treating people. It dictates your moral and ethical beliefs, your belief system. That's how you're going to be able to tell right from wrong. It's not as easy to recognize a person's character as it is to recognize their personality. Many times, true character is hidden behind a fictitious personality, and it takes time to really get down and dig and see what a person's character is really like. So I have a picture here for you. I'm going to put it on the overhead. It's possible we might be able to see it here. I like using this. This is from the workplace manual, so we're jumping ahead a little bit here. But I really, when I first saw this, I said, you know, that really does show it as it is. The top picture right there says, what is character? Well, character is our foundation. It's like a solid brick home, well built. You know, a foundation, strong walls, strong roof. It doesn't leak. You got tight doors and windows if you've got windows there. It's the basic building block. It's that basic thing that we build on, okay? So let's take a look now at personality. And what is personality? Well, just you can see the picture now. It looks a little different than this, you know. We've got flowers and windows and shutters and a little sign over the door and a fancy door and everything, you know. So we've added a little personality to the house. Now let me ask you this. If I take those flowers away, does it change the character of the house, the basic foundation? The answer would be no, it doesn't. If I took the sign off above the door, would that change the basic foundation of the house? No, it would not. That's just outer things that tend to make people look at the house, if you will, you know, to look at it and notice, wow, that's a nice looking house. You know, I'd really like to have something like that one day. But what if you get in that house and you notice cracks in the foundation and in the walls? Well, now you've got a problem. So it's the same thing with personality and character. Personality will draw us to something or turn us away, whichever, but character is what remains after everything else is gone, you know, when you find out what's really going on. So I'm going to show that one more time on the overhead. Remember, put this in your brain. Remember that picture of that house right there. That's the basic structure, you know, the basic strong structure, and then you build onto it with personality. You can change the colors, you can put flowers out there, you can put shutters on the windows, you can change the color of the roof, you know, whatever you want to do, and that's the personality of it. So everybody got that? That's kind of a picture that's easy to remember and will help you to remember what the difference between character and personality is like. I really like that. It was very basic and simple, and I thought that was worth showing there. Let's go ahead back to Lesson Plan 1, page E in our acceptance book. And we're still in procedure number 1. Now we're on B. What are some positive moral character traits? Well, what are some of those positive moral character traits? You know, we've got them. We've got many of them listed for us in the Peaceful Solution. If you turn to page 14 in your character unit, page 14 and 15, it even carries over a little bit on to page 16. But, you know, the teacher has a prompt there on the procedure 1, number B. It says, honesty, reliability, dependability, and courage are all positive moral character traits. These are just some of those things. You know, it's not all of them by any means. In fact, the number 1, the first one listed in the Peaceful Solution, the positive character trait, is educated. If you've got your character unit on page 14, educated is getting all the facts and making sure they are correct before making a decision. That's a hard thing to do. But, you know, because we tend sometimes to want to jump to a conclusion or have some type of preconceived notion of something, you know. But get educated and get all the facts. Ask questions. Be willing to listen, you know. You might not like everything you hear, but be willing to listen and get educated. Get the facts before making a decision on something. All right, let's move along to number C, or letter C. It says, why is positive moral character important? Now, when I'm asking these questions, you know, kind of think about it in your head there. Why is positive moral character important? So you're thinking about it now and what the answer might be. There's a prompt for the teacher that says positive moral character will affect every decision that you make. It will also bring you peace of mind. Now, I'm going to stop right there for just a second. And I'd like to say, no matter what an unpeaceful person can throw at you, get this, no matter what an unpeaceful person can throw at you, someone who doesn't practice peace, someone who doesn't practice building positive moral character, no matter what they can come at you with, guess what? They cannot take away your positive moral character. It brings you peace of mind. And that's why this is called the peaceful solution. It is a peaceful solution between, two parties or more, but it's a peaceful solution with you yourself too. We were talking about, self, accepting self, not just acceptance of other people or anything, but you have to accept yourself too, self-acceptance. And so the peaceful solution will give you peace of mind if you practice it. And that's a key factor right there. Don't just leave it on the shelf. We always are asking that we practice these things. Continuing on, it says you will not have to suffer the consequences that immoral character bring, such as guilt, fear, low self-worth, not being trusted, not being reliable, depression. I mean, there's a lot of things that come with. Now, don't get me wrong. If a person's a little depressed, it doesn't mean that there's not something going on in their life that they might need to focus on and get together. Also, if a pit bull is fixing to tear at your leg or something, there might be a little fear there for a moment or something, What I'm saying is that, what we're saying is that you will not have to suffer the consequences that you bring upon yourself from having an immoral character, such as the guilt and fear of getting caught and low self-worth and everything that comes along with the practice of bad morals. And I think most everybody can probably understand that. Before being introduced to the peaceful solution, there were many things that I had to feel guilty about and fearful about, that someone was going to say something or was going to get caught or this or that, and low self-worth, the ups and downs and then the depressions and everything that went with all those things. That's a major deal. It's a roller coaster ride, When you really start putting the peaceful solution to work in your life and practicing this, that roller coaster, you're able to get off of it, You're able to yell at them and tell them to let me off this thing. And then you have a calm existence. Not to say that there's not going to be some ups and downs and some, remember, curveballs and pitfalls, right? But you're going to have a calm existence coming at you. Yeah, things are going to be thrown at you from time to time from the person that's not being peaceful, but you learn how to deal with it. Might not be great at first, but you learn how to deal with these things. Let's go to letter D. What is meant by the term moral value? Well, a moral value is like a line that divides wrong behavior from right behavior. Here it is. This is wrong. This is right. There's a line there. Turn to page 8 in your character unit, and that little illustration right there says it all, really. It has the line, and it says right or wrong. For those of you that might not have a book, I'm going to put this on the overhead for just a moment, but you can see the right or wrong. My new book, I got to put a few little sticky tabs in it. All right, so regardless of culture, religion, or environment, there are some values that all people share. And this is one of the things that people seem to be able to understand. No one wants to come home at night and find that their house has been broken into, or they're leaving out from the grocery store and their car's windows are smashed and their tires are slit. No one wants that, okay? We can all agree on that. And that, so regardless of, where you live, regardless of your religion, regardless of any of that stuff, you could live in the far north and have to wear have to bundle up all the time and live in an igloo or something, or you can live in the far south, or in Argentina or something where it's rather warm, and it doesn't matter. Everybody agrees with this. These are called moral values. Or moral value is like a line that divides wrong behavior from the right behavior, and people from all walks of life, young or old, big or small, rich or poor, share some of the same basic concepts of moral values. Remember that thing, that right and wrong. By the way, morality can be divided into 3 basic categories, and that's behavior and attitude towards all life. This is important to remember. By the way, all life, human, animal, plant. And then your behavior and attitude towards possessions and property. Remember these patterns of behavior that we're talking about. Yet you build patterns. Your behavior and attitude towards the environment. Okay? Remember those things. All right, so that's a little bit of review of the character unit. And, of course, there's a lot there that we'll be probably going back and forth to from time to time. And you should. You should have these books to where you can look at them every now and then. And if something comes up, you can say, now, what did that say about this? And actually go back. Take some notes, Highlight things. It really pops out at you. All right, let's move along to procedure number 2. I'm going to go ahead and read the procedure first, and then we're going to talk about it just a little bit. It says, explain to students that in this new unit called acceptance, they will explore the value, remember that word, when you hear that word value, something should pop into your head. The value of individuality, tolerance, positive interactions, as well as positive goals that motivate and encourage. Tell students they will learn what it means to accept themselves and others. Now remember, this is the teacher's manual. This is laying out the guide for you to be teaching the students, and this is what you're going to be trying to get across. And you yourself should understand these concepts along the way. Have students turn to page 3 and read the introduction. Now, we're going to continue reading here for a minute. Explain that accepting who we are means understanding that we all have aspects in our lives that are beyond our control. For example, many of our physical traits, this is on page F, lesson plan 1, page F. For example, many of our physical traits are genetically determined. Genetically determined, meaning there's nothing we can do about it, really. The physical traits, they're there. Your eyes are blue or they're green. You can't change it. You can mask it, but you can't change it. Ask students for examples of traits that are genetic, and of course you'll get the eye color, the hand you use to write with, whether you're left-handed, right-handed, whatever, whether you're musically inclined, or even love for certain foods and colors, And we could get a wide variety here today if we started asking, what color you like best, or what food you liked best, We could get a whole lot of different answers. Okay. So let's turn back over to page E, lesson plan 1, page E, and let's look at that. It says, explain to students that in this new unit called acceptance, they will explore the value. Okay, well, values. That pops into my mind, page 6 in the character unit. So you've got your character unit. Let's go ahead and go look at page 6 real quick. Remember, all these things go together. We're talking about morals. We're talking about values. We're talking about character. We're talking about personality. We're talking about so many things. It's a lot to remember. It really is. So along the way, you should have some things that you can plant that image in your mind to help you remember these things. Myself, the illustration on page 6 in the character unit for values, I'll show you on the overhead there. See that? It's like opening up your head and pouring everything into there. You can't do that, but you can't just pour that character in. So values are what you believe in, what you feel strongly about. They also play a key role in developing your character. I've seen people that believe strongly in things and they get into arguments, They're Republican or Democrat or, this or that. The sum total of everything you value becomes your value system. So everything. As you mature and grow, your parents share their values with you, just like their parents shared their values with them. And, just on that for a moment, not going too deep, but a lot of people that, in all the different religions that are out there, many people are a certain religion because their parents were a certain religion, and they grew up. They had that pattern of behavior and that pattern of attitude, and they had a value system that was formed with that, and they grew up with that, and so they're a certain religion because mom and daddy was, and grandpa and grandma was. Same thing with political parties. A lot of people are Democrat because their whole family's Democrat, or they're Republican, on and on and on. So the things that they care about and consider as important are for the most part the same things you care about. Of course, as you interact with people other than your parents, you'll adopt other values as well. It'll change over time. Okay, so let's get back to lesson plan 1, page E in our acceptance book. And just to show you there, I'm going to let you see this page. So when you're getting a lesson together, you want to have things underlined and highlighted and so forth in the book that you're teaching out of, so you can quickly move to the next page. It's highly recommended that you take notes and keep them in there, because you'll use them over and over again. And if you wear one book out, you can go and copy some of your notes down, and you'll find your notes changing along the way too, and you'll be picking up different notes from different teachers or different things that occur in your life. So, all right, so moving on, it says have students turn to page 3, okay? Page 3, and read the introduction. So let's do that. Let's go to page 3. And some of you might be thinking about something already concerning some of the pages, but I'm going to go ahead and read page 3 here, and we'll go to that. So chapter 1, accepting me, accepting you, and this is the introduction. Acceptance, as presented in this unit of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, means to willingly acknowledge the positive characteristics about yourself and others. Acceptance means understanding that there are aspects of your life that you can and cannot change. You can and cannot change. You do have to learn to accept those things that you cannot change. And, of course, be willing to change those things that you can. And that's what we're talking about here. And the things that you can change and that need to be changed to bring forth a positive outcome. So, in other words, some things you have control over and some you don't. For example, and we mentioned this already, you're predisposed genetically towards certain physical characteristics. Skin, hair color, they're all predetermined by our family ancestry. Other things we have no control over are where we were born, who our parents are, and even when we were born. In other words, we have to accept whatever age we are. Yeah, you can't really change that either. You can mask it. You can tell people, "Oh no, I'm not 40 years old. I'm only 32." It doesn't change that you're 40 years old. You can just mask it. Hide it, lie about it. Put stuff on to look younger. I don't know. All right, so accepting yourself means realizing that you are a unique human being. Your ability to make a difference in your life and the lives of others depends only on the amount of time and effort you put forth into your studies. So that right there is extremely important. Your ability. Your ability. And first realizing that we are all unique human beings. Now, this is something that the Peaceful Solution has focused on that helped me quite a bit when I first started delving into the Peaceful Solution there and studying it. It really did help me to understand that, yes, I am different than everybody else. Though there might be 300 people out here or more, there's not one person there that's exactly like me. Throughout this entire state of Texas, where we're at right now, where the headquarters of the Peaceful Solution is, I think there's roughly 20 million people in this state. You know, in all that 20 million people, they could line up and I could not find another me in that 20 million people. Think about it for a minute. Even if you did find somebody that resembled your physical traits, you know, that looked a little bit like you, guess what? When you start digging inside and seeing how that building is built, remember the picture of the house, you know, the character and personality? When you start looking into it and seeing how it's built, you're going to find that, whoa, this guy is way different than me. So there is nobody like you. You're very unique. Don't take that for granted. That alone should be something that should put a smile on your face and help in any problems that you're going through, you know, knowing that you're the only one of you. So your ability to make a difference in your life and lives of others, that's what we want to do. We want to have that ability to not only make a difference in our own lives. We don't want to study the Peaceful Solution just so our life can be better. You know, yeah, our life is going to be better. There's no doubt about that, but that's not what it's all about. The Peaceful Solution, if you really study it, it is highly geared towards you understanding that it's not just about you. It's about other people. It's about their lives. It's about that ripple effect that takes place, you know. Throughout, from now on, it just never stops. Something that you say to somebody, they say to their children, they say to their children, and their children, and their children, and it goes on for generations. You don't know when it's going to stop. So we have to be careful, you know, what we do. We should want to make a difference in the life of others. That's what this is really all about. And you notice it says it depends only on the amount of time and effort you put forth in your studies. Yeah, you're going to have to study. Those of you that are watching out there tonight, you know, possibly you didn't really want to, you know, you might have been thinking, oh man, I really want to go get something to eat, or I want to watch this on TV or something, or I want to go do this or that. You know, you made the right choice if you're sitting there tonight. You are actually taking hold of this last paragraph that I just read, and you are learning how to make a difference in your life and everybody else's, and you're putting effort into your studies. Continue on. Now, I told you I'd cover something here. Now, remember, when we go back to lesson plan, back to lesson plan 1, page E, and we're reading procedure number 2, it says, have students turn to page 3. Well, you know, what occurred to page 1 and 2? You know, are we just not supposed to even look at that? Is it just in the book for no reason? Well, no, it's in the book, and it's there for a reason. So let's go ahead and go to page 1. Page 1. We're going to look at page 1 and 2. Yes, it said turn to page 3, and we did, and we went over that, but we're going to look back at page 1 and 2 also, okay? So this is a note to the student. This is for the students out there. And this will be in their book. Just what does it mean to accept yourself and others? The answer to this question is both simple and complex. Well, how can that be so? Well, look how simple and complex. I'm going to revert back to the picture I showed you of the building that's very simple. It's a simple structure, you know, well-built foundation, walls, roof, and so forth, you know, that character, that basic structure. And then at the same time, you got that personality that mixes in there too. And so it is both simple but yet complex when we start looking at all of it and all the things that go into having a positive moral character. So needless to say, everyone has aspects of his personality, character, and physical characteristics that he would like to improve on in some way, shape, or form. And there's billions and billions of dollars that are made from people trying to change their appearance in one way or another. There's billions made on people trying to change different aspects of their mental faculties and their general well-being as far as pain and everything else goes. There's billions spent in the pharmaceutical industry, trillions that are spent. So that focuses on this, that there is something that just about everybody would like to improve in some way. So in other words, no one's perfect, okay? Even though there are things we might want to change about ourselves, we must be willing to identify the things about our character, personality, and physical traits that are positive and worthwhile. Excuse me. Here's the problem. If you are unable to appreciate who you are as a unique person and you focus only on the things you don't like about yourself, your surroundings, or your circumstances, you could miss out on the opportunity to improve yourself. I want to read that one more time. If you're unable to appreciate who you are as a unique person, now remember we talked about that, you're the only one of you. Out of everybody on this earth, you're the only one of you. And you focus, which that's an amazing thing in itself, but you focus only on the things you don't like about yourself, whether, you got a big nose or your ears, you would they were smaller, or your mouth is shaped funny, or, you're tall, oh, you're short, you're fat, you're skinny, whatever. You focus on that, it's not going to be great for you. And that's why we're in this book here right now, too, to help you with self-acceptance, too. So if you focus only on the things you don't like about yourself, your surroundings, or your circumstances, you could miss out on the opportunity to improve yourself. Now, it's been said, and we used to say it a bit jokingly, but it has turned out to be so true. When you're going through some type of adverse situation, since it's talking about our surroundings and our circumstances here, when you're going through some type of adverse situation, I remember many times saying, that's great for you. It builds character, Well, amazingly enough, guess what? It does. So if you think about your circumstances that you're in currently, and you're like, oh, if only I had this, or if only I could do this, or if only this, if only I were tall, if only I were short, if only I were fat, if only I were skinny, if I were, all these many things, if only I had money, if only I didn't have money, it's too much hassle. Oh, if I had my own business, if I didn't, you could go on and on and on and on and on. You know what? Everybody has circumstances, too, that they're not exactly, satisfied with, you could say. So, if you focus only on those things, only on those circumstances, you could miss out on the opportunity to improve yourself. So look at it for what it is. It's great for you. It builds character, okay? It really is true. Now, you could also miss out on many of the joys that life has to offer. By focusing only on the negative, you will eventually rob yourself of the opportunity to live up to your full potential. There's people that are joyful no matter what comes their way. Isn't that amazing? I mean, there really are people that, now, I'm not saying they have to walk around all day with a smile, a grin, a smile on their face all day long, looking silly or something. I'm not saying that, but there might be someone that does. So what? Let them be joyful. Don't take it away from them. You couldn't take it away from them probably. There are people that are joyful no matter what comes their way, that are joyful just to be alive. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to, and some of you may appreciate this or be able to understand it. But I had the opportunity, the first time I ever saw this as a young man, I think Ronald Reagan was president, and there had been a lot of changes take place, and there were a lot of jobs that were lost. It was like a changing time. There was a lot of jobs that was lost, and there was a lot of homelessness. I think that eventually turned around and built up from what I remember, but the initial stages of it in the early 80s, I remember. And you could go, if you were in a big city There were people under every bridge. In Houston, Texas, I remember there were little communities under all the big bridges, which they had big bridges. You know, you got 8 lanes on one side and 8 lanes on the other side. You got a pretty big bridge right there. And so there were little communities that were forming, and I had the opportunity to talk to talk to people. I wasn't homeless at the time. You know, I had a job and family and everything. I just thought, you know, I would like to talk to some of these people, you know, see what's going on in their life. And it was really pretty great to be able to sit down and talk about these things and see what people's circumstances were like. So I remember, the point of it is, I remember later in life, one of the things that I had fully ingrained in my mind is that no matter how bad things got, I could look around at my circumstances and I could say to myself, you know, hey, David, you're not living under a bridge. You know, I could look at that and I could then immediately have change my attitude, so to speak. You know, or hey, David, you know, you're not in a foreign country where they have war every day and every night, you know. Or hey, David, you got a roof over your head. So whatever your circumstances are, look at it for what it is. It's an opportunity to grow. It is an opportunity to build character, and things are not as bad as they could be. I guarantee you. Just remember that. And you should be looking forward to and hoping for a better outcome. So, here's the bottom line. The cans and cannots of life. There will be things in your life that you will not be able to change, and there will be things that you can. When you're able to make a distinction between the two and focus on what you can change, you will demonstrate acceptance of who you are as a unique person. That's mentioned that a few times now. I'd say that's pretty important. You got to get that unique person thing going here and understanding, you know, that you're the only one of you. So, for example, let's say you're really short for your age and the likelihood of you being a tall person is very slim. No pun intended there. Tall, slim person, you know. Because most people in your family are short. Not accepting yourself means focusing only on how short you are and failing to see all the great things you can accomplish. I can tell you what, I'm kind of tall, and there are times that I would have liked to have been a bit shorter when doing certain things. Somebody jokes about it a little bit that I work with, you know. They're reminding me constantly to duck. You know, hey, watch that. You know, you're going to hit your head. So, and he makes sure he points out that he doesn't have that problem. So there's a great reason that being a little shorter, you know, would be great. But not accepting yourself means focusing only on how short you are and failing to see all the great things you can accomplish. For instance, you could be kind, you could be a great student, artistic, and so on. But because you focus only on your height, you are unable to see anything else. Now for the million-dollar question. Can you change how tall or short you are? Well, of course the answer is no, so why worry about it? I mean, I guess you could put some stilts on or something, you know, like the drywallers do, walking around with stilts, just have you some long pants, you know. Or you could, I don't know how you'd really look shorter, but, you know, I guess there's ways to do both. If you really wanted to, you could put lifts in your shoes that, or get some high heel shoes that raise you up a few inches or so. But really, that's not changing anything. You're not taller, you're not shorter. It hasn't changed nothing. So why should we put all our energy on what we can't change when there's so many ways we can improve ourselves? Yeah, you know, it's like you're putting all that energy to it and you're not getting anywhere, you know? Think about it. Our character, attitude, intellect, and the way in which we interact with others are all things we can change and improve. In fact, not only can we improve these things about ourselves, but we should. I agree with that. We should change those things. We should change our character and our attitude. You know, attitude is big. Attitude, Positive attitude. If you have a positive moral character, you're more likely to have a positive attitude in dealing with others, which will help you along the way too. Less conflicts in your life, more rewards. Okay, others count too. We're on go to page 2. Now this is the other, missing page, if you will. So here's something else to consider. Each person is just as important as you are. This means that as you learn to accept your life as worthwhile, remember that so are the lives of others. This is called tolerance. You're not placing yourself above others. You don't have yourself placed in such a high and mighty position that you can't listen to other people and that you can't have a conversation and discuss things. So this is called tolerance, and it's an important part of acceptance. How would you be able to accept somebody if you didn't know anything about them? I mean, you could, in general, practice acceptance, and you can have a positive attitude towards people. But learning to accept yourself and your life is worthwhile, and remembering that each person is just as important as you are, that's a big deal right there. Each person is just as important as you are. This is called tolerance, and it's an important part of acceptance. People are not always going to be doing what you do. People are not always going to put a chair where you put a chair. I remember working with someone one time, and I just can't help but give these examples sometimes because they're a part of life. But I remember working with someone one time that his job wasn't to make sure that the chairs were in a particular place, but when a coworker would come in and he would use a chair and he would put the chair back, kind of where he got it from, behind the table, but not exactly where this other person had put it, the guy would just go ballistic. He just could not stand that somebody was putting that chair in a different place than he put it. Same thing went for the pencil on the desk, whether it was his or not, and that's the thing I was going to get at. It's not that he was the owner of the property or that he had any particular job assigned to him in keeping that pencil or that chair in that exact spot. It's just that that's the way he wanted it, and he wanted everybody else to want it his way too. And the other person, they tried along the way to, make their life easier so that there was a little bit less conflict. He would do things, go out of his way to see that the pencil or the chair was really, what he thought was where the guy wanted it. But it just never seemed to work out because the guy was so intent on having it exactly how he wanted, and he had no tolerance for the other individuals. He was not accepting or practicing acceptance in his life, that people are different, that people are going to do things different from time to time. Look at their character, Now, don't get me wrong. On the other hand, if the man had been assigned to make sure that those things were in that exact spot, then by all means, he would have been doing a really great job. Or if it was his property and he had the right to say, look, if you're going to use my pencil, I want you to ask me first, and I want you to put it exactly in this spot where I have it, then he would have the right to do so. But if those things didn't apply, then he would need to learn more tolerance and acceptance. That's just an example of this. There's many more, and you could dig deeper than that. That's just a quick example. Now, did you know that you can convey an attitude of acceptance to others by the way in which you communicate and interact with them? Did you know that poor communication causes conflicts? And we have to remember the word communication. Communicating is not just listening to somebody or hearing somebody, I should say. Communicating is not just telling someone to sit down, shut up, and listen to what you're saying, Communicating is sharing information and gaining information. Sharing information, gaining information. There's a little bit of give and take there. You might not always like the exact personality that the person displays when they're interacting with you and communicating with you. They might not like the way you communicate with them too. But if you're not practicing immoral things, you're not calling them names, you're not being rude and telling them to shut up or whatever, you're not doing these things. If you're on an even basis, in other words, I mean, if you're the boss, there's certain times you might have to get a little bit loud with somebody to get their attention. There's times that you might have to tell them, I want you to sit here and listen to me for a moment. And then if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer, and so forth. But in communicating as individuals, one to another, you have to be willing to listen, you have to be willing to share, okay? So, I'm going to read that again. Did you know that you can convey an attitude of acceptance merely by the way in which you communicate and interact with others? Did you know that poor communication causes conflicts? It's not hard to learn to communicate. It might be hard to learn to always have something to talk about on the tip of your tongue, to always have a great conversation ready and just jumping off your tongue there and everyone wants to talk to you. That might be hard to do. But it's not that hard to communicate when there's something that people can talk about. So the best way to ensure that others know that you accept them as individuals is through positive moral interaction, which is respectful, caring, and compassionate. See how all that stuff comes together? Compassion, caring about the other person, caring about that person as much as you care about yourself, or possibly even more, Positive moral interaction, which is respectful, caring, and compassionate. So, as you learn about acceptance, keep in mind that it pertains to you and others, and that an attitude of acceptance requires positive moral character. Keep an open and alert mind as you read and study this book, because within its pages are lessons you can use for life. I want to go back to Lesson Plan 1, page E, real quick. And when you look at the things that is said to explain and to ask and have students do and so forth, you want to make sure you've kind of done these things. Now, along the way, the Peaceful Solution is written in such a manner that even just reading the book, these things are expounded upon. You can expound on them further. It's best to expound on them by going back and sharing, different lessons and so forth. You can have, stories that are appropriate, about life in general that have taken place through the years that everybody could associate with, hopefully not stories that are, like building you up to be somebody really, really special. It's great that you understand that you're a unique individual and that you are special, but what I'm saying is that when you're teaching the Peaceful Solution, the stories that you share, you should make sure they are appropriate for all ages and for all mixed company, if you will, men, women, children, etc. So you want to make sure that it's always appropriate. So you want to go back and look at this lesson and see. We did explain that accepting who we are means understanding that we all have aspects in our lives that are beyond our control. And stress, and then you turn it over to the next page and see in the next paragraph, it says stretch that these physical traits, likes and dislikes, makes us all unique individuals. There's no one just like us. And so hopefully, as a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, the lesson that you've put forth, there will be something in there that will be remembered by all students. Not all are going to remember the same thing, but along the way, each person should remember something about that lesson that will help them to understand what acceptance is and how it applies to character in general. So with all that being said, I'd like to invite you back, everybody that's here at the headquarters and also those that are online and watching. I'd like to invite you back for Sunday. We will have classes beginning at 5:30. 5:30 to 6:30, and we'll be moving on. We will be on lesson plan 1, page F, and probably starting with procedure number 3, I would think. So we can look forward to that, and I invite everybody back. All right, hope you can all make it. Thank you for coming.